Hallelujah, praise Satan, and namaste. It's been way too long, and you know what? We've missed you just as much as you've missed us. But now we're back in your ear holes with episode 13 of Musical Shenanigans. It is time to rock and roll, baby. So grab that hairbrush you like to pretend is a microphone. Oh yeah, we see you. Crank your air guitar up to 11 and grease up your codpiece, because here's Corey, Scott, and, well, me. Fire!
Hello again, this is Corey.
And this is Dave.
And this is Scott. Praise Satan.
Yes, of course.
As always.
And we're back to do what we always do now. We're pitting the albums against each other, and this time around is going to be rather interesting.
Yeah.
In the first round, we have Gang of Four with their album Entertainment from 1979 up against Drake. If you're reading this, it's too late from 2015. In round two, it will be Miles Davis with Bitches Brew from 1970, taking on Radiohead, OK Computer, from 1997. I do like.
I've never heard that album title actually expressed as if someone was having a dialogue with the computer. OK Computer.
It's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a line delivered by Zaphod Beeblebrox.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you know what? You're really spoiling my thing now, because I've got a whole thing about the album title. So,
we don't. You know what?
We don't want Scott's thing to get spoiled.
And Corey,
I can edit this out.
No, you're just wrong. It's okay. Leave it in.
Oh, okay.
But you're wrong.
Okay.
All right. Well, Scott will enlighten us. Perhaps we have been misinformed.
Exactly. See, I know. I got the real skinny here.
Yep.
Just like Gang of Four.
Well, and I guess that's a perfect segue to get started.
Yes.
In round one, Scott has Gang of Four. I have Drake. God help me.
And I will be acting as your judge for this round, gentlemen. Are you ready with your arguments?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Probably as I'll ever be.
And you know what? I'm going to mute myself for you.
Oh, if you have to. You don't have to.
No, I'm learning that that's what I have to do.
It's probably for the best.
It really is.
But this is Gang of Four. Is that what we're saying?
Yes. I apologize, Scott. Please proceed whenever you're ready. I apologize.
Oh no, I don't have a lot to say.
You have the floor.
Well, this is sad British twat music for sad British twats. It informed a growing scene, and of course, it influenced a large group of people. But we are not going to talk about that, are we? There's hookers, and there's skinwalkers, and there's probably a jelly llama too. But no one knows the secret of the sauce. This album could be summed up thusly. Okay, here we go. It can be summed up like this, alright? Steven Seagal fisting Donald Trump while tuning a tuba that has been ground down into a pile of dust, and the dust is a liquid that smells of wet dogs, and the dogs are collies, and the collies are barking, and the barking is melodic, but not really, because it's in the key of B flat, and there are dissonant notes that careen through, and the melody is haunting you unto this day. All the while, Steven Seagal twists his wrist in the squirming rectum of Don's gaping ass, which is farting like a balloon on Christmas Day, because the pigs are screaming. What they really just want to eat juniper bushes and make some lemonade, but no one will listen because Kanye just walked in, and suddenly Donald has diarrhea, and he's trying to sing about the hippos that are surfing into his field of vision, while Steven grunts in pain because his wrists are being broken by the force of Donnie's rectum. And this is what I genuinely feel is the real message behind Gang of Four's sad British twat music album. I concede.
You concede?
Yes.
Wait a minute. What was this whole thing about balloons at Christmas? I got lost.
That's just those are the thoughts that run through my head while listening to that album.
Yeah, it always comes back to the anus.
It does. It kind of does.
Scott is the finest rectal attorney in the business.
Okay. Yeah.
I do the deep dives that no one else wants to do.
Yeah, well, you got me there.
Going where no other proctologist dares to go.
Yes. Podcast proctology.
Okay, so anyway, Gang of Four. Corey, anything to add about Gang of Four?
Entertainment, being their debut album, Rolling Stone has said it is 5th among greatest punk albums.
Really?
Ahead of them, number 4 being The Stooges with Funhouse. Number 3, never mind the bollocks, here's the Sex Pistols.
There you
Number
go.
2, The Clash, that we covered.
Yeah.
And number 1, The Ramones.
Amen.
Which
Yeah.
I would agree on those.
Yeah,
I would agree.
That's a good list. That's a good list.
That is a decent list.
But this wasn't really like punk, right? Like this was the beginning of the whole post-punk movement, right?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, I felt like this was, like I've said earlier, this feels like the beginning of very early, no doubt, a little bit of ska influence, a little bit of reggae influence, but you can hear that in there, just like you mentioned about buildings and food.
Yeah. What Scott's referring to, before we started recording, I was talking earlier, a few weeks ago, you heard us talking about the Talking Heads, more songs about buildings and food. If you listen to this Gang of Four album and then you put the Talking Heads on album right after that, you'll hear a lot of similarities, like in the guitar style, and it's very sort of minimalist. This whole post-punk movement was really about sort of a recognition that punk music, that's sort of like 3 chords and a scowl, got a little boring and old after a while. And so really what Gang of Four and other artists at the time, like Talking Heads, also like Susie and the Banshees, Public Image Limited, they were trying to do something that was a little bit more complex and innovative. And so they started drawing on, Scott, to your point, all these other influences. And also drawing in more, lyrically, drawing in bigger concepts like politics and philosophy and literature as well. So
Yeah, this was the foundation, I think.
Yeah.
Well, from what most people say, for the goths. When new wave and industrial music, by the mid to late 80s, this was all dumped into the quote-unquote alternative bucket.
right.
Yeah, it's funny what they considered alternative back then. It's like we can't classify this. It's alternative. Oh,
Yeah.
Well, one of the big changes is you notice that bass guitars are carrying the melody rather than the guitars.
yeah, and that's nice, honestly.
It was Flea that said it was something that completely changed the way he listened to rock and roll and inspired him to play bass, which, interestingly enough, Andy Gill, the guitarist of Gang of Four, produced the first Chili Peppers album.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he also produced for Michael Hutchence, too. Michael Hutchence always said that that Gang of Four was a big influence on NXS, which I have to tell you, I'm not quite sure I hear that, but I'll take the late Mr. Hutchence word for it. But actually, Andy Gill, Corey, that you just mentioned, he passed away recently. So just in February of last year, he passed away at the age of 64. At the time, there was a press release where they said it was multiple organ failure and pneumonia. However, as time has gone on and they've looked a little further into it, now there's been some sort of subsequent speculation that he may have been an early COVID case. Because he had been on a tour in China in 2019, right as the pandemic was taking off there. And so no one knows for sure, but he may have actually been one of the sort of early cases bringing it back here from China.
Yikes. Well, that's horrible.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Otherwise, I mean, they're a big influence. You can definitely hear other bands that have glommed from this and taken it one step forward and taken it further.
Yeah.
one step beyond, but not.
I mean, you mentioned Public Image Limited.
That was Johnny Broughton in the Talking Heads. Johnny Broughton in the Sex Pistols, but then his real name was, by that point, by the time he was in Public Image Limited, he was going by his real name of Johnny Lydon.
Yeah, or just John Lydon. Yeah. Excuse me, no, I'm just John Lydon now.
Speaking of British twats, there is a British twat.
Very much. God. I guess what I really appreciate about this album, though, is sort of the commitment to doing everything differently. You know, they had this philosophy, like, we're not going to be punk, but we're not going back to, even though they were big classic rock fans, we're not going back to rock and roll either. Apparently, like, they were Andy Gill in particular was so committed to that, if somebody's already done it, we're not doing it, that they were playing a show and the bass player rested his foot on the monitor speaker in front of them at the front of the stage, and it looked like such a rock and roll move that Andy Gill started a fist fight with him. Just for doing nothing other than putting his foot up on the monitor.
Yeah, but starting a fist fight was a punk move, though.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Like, fuck you, oi.
Yep, exactly. But there was a lot of things where they were trying to, whatever you were expecting, they were trying to do something different. You don't hear a lot of guitar solos on this album. He came up with this thing called the anti-solo, which is basically wherever you would normally expect a guitar solo, you just stop playing and leave a hole in it. It was, like I said, I appreciate the commitment to it. They also didn't do a lot of mixing or post-production on it. Apparently, they handed the tapes over to EMI after they got done, and EMI listened to it and said, "Is this the demo?" And they went, "No, this is the album. This is all we're doing."
This is where Steven Seagal came in. Pretty obvious. You can hear the influence.
Absolutely.
I would have I didn't see it until you presented it.
I know.
And now.
I know. It's all right.
I still don't see it.
It's okay. It's probably best that you don't.
All right, gentlemen. Anything else on Gang of Four, or shall we move on to?
I can make some really horrifying references.
Really? Like
No, I think-
you didn't get it all out of your system 5 minutes ago?
No, I feel like I did. I mean, do you want me to reread that?
No, it's quite all right. It's recorded. That's the beauty of it. We're recording. You don't have to do it again.
I know, but it's beautiful. I can reread it.
You can go back and listen to yourself all you like.
Then you'll have it twice in 2 different meters.
Oh, what? You're gonna do it slower?
No.
Is it gonna be like those slow fucking with
Yes.
Trump?
The fist is going 2 meters up his ass.
Yes.
Well, you know, I mean, I could do it. I could do the sexy voice. Steven Seagal was trying to move it around.
Just wait till we get the bitches, bro. I think the music would fit better.
Baby, Donald, hold still.
I'm trying to think of some like clever Steven Seagal joke, but I can't remember the name of a single Steven Seagal movie at this point.
No, at this point, yeah.
Under Siege.
Under Siege is the only one I can think of. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can't believe you didn't work that in.
Sorry. I'll stop.
Yeah.
All right, so for Corey, are we ready to move on to Mr. Drake?
I am ready.
All right, take it away whenever you're ready.
And I'm bringing back an old favorite.
Awesome.
Start the music. Drake, swaggering Canadian rascal, dissembling voice with auto-tune abuse. An album, nay, a mixtape, he doth shares. Epithet dropping greater than Mark Twain. Finding talent one requires great strain. This projectile release, fourth of Aubrey's, for do doth note, this knave be Aubrey called. Beloved rolling Jimmy Brooks once was, Canadian television drama. Degrassi, the next generation 'twas. Now Toronto-born, hip-hop artist known, for War of the Braggarts, he and Kanye. Tedious, vile, cantankerous cancers upon the sodden foul ass of hip-hop, vying for the coveted throne on high, flying into the bright skies corona. Though of Rolling Stone albums we have heard, 'tis best mixtape, a venerable herd. Of mixtapes I cannot name any others. Gang of Four hath not a mixtape to claim. Entertainment in one album contained. For to them we should grant numerous thanks. A thank you for the plague you have bestowed and laden us with the likes of the Cure. Nay, yet through all of my lamentations, wouldst I rather endure hours of goth than days required to consume Donda. Drake, however, let me say this to you, likely learned his beats from Barry Sobel, and all his bitches make his rabbi proud. For the best of Drake is his love of soup. Another mixtape of this caliber cannot, will not, should not, ever be found. I yield.
Well
done, sir.
Yes.
Very
Back
nice.
to the
Very nice.
pentameter.
Thank goodness I was missing that. It's like I felt like it was just like, damn, I say all these horrible things, and Corey doesn't have anything elegant to say. What the fuck?
Yeah, so Aubrey Graham here, black, Jewish, Canadian.
Wow.
Is he Jewish?
Brazen. Yeah.
I didn't know
his
that.
mother
I actually
is.
had no.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And he actually went through a bar mitzvah. And
Well, oy vey.
brazenly uses auto-tune and played hockey. So the album is considered a mixtape. So I had to go looking up this nonsense in hip-hop. Mixtape describes a self-produced or independently released album issued free of charge to gain publicity or avoid possible copyright infringement. Yes, welcome to Musical Shenanigans, the podcast mixtape. The term has become blurred since 2010 as it has been applied to releases published for profit. And then I did find on another site that they said, according to culturedarm.com, the distinction between albums, mixtapes, and EPs is 100% a matter of marketing intent. how badly the artist wants you to buy the product. You drop a mixtape when you're spitballing ideas out of sight of the out of sight of the charts, or trying to regain some lost industry cachet. You drop an EP when you think you've got your sound down and want to float a more prestigious project to retail without the critics harshing on you. And you drop the album when you are ready to rest your reputation on a single body of work. What the fuck happened out there? Just drop an album.
So
I mean, seriously.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about that, so
Really?
I don't know if you read this, but apparently with this one, it's like Kanye, sorry. Drake.
6 of 1.
Yeah, well, that guy.
Drake apparently dropped this for free in the middle of the night. And then it was online and anybody could download it. And it was only up, though, for like 12 or 15 hours before he yanked it back down. And then when it came back, he was charging for it. And apparently, and I'm not sure how this played out because I never really saw an article. Most of what I was reading were like reviews when it first came out. So I haven't seen any sort of like backwards looking on how this ultimately ended itself. But apparently there was some speculation that he was like super unhappy with the label he was on. And Corey, to your point, he was just doing something sort of outside the contract and he was going to release it for free. But then he realized that with his existing contract, he was only under contract to produce one more album. So by yanking it back down and bringing it back and charging for it, he could count that as his last album and get out of his contract.
Wow.
But this whole mixtape.
That's so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Come on.
I don't get it.
Drop a fucking album and be done with it. Yeah, but more and more I see that, especially younger bands, they're putting out EPs. That's the big thing. Put out an EP. Because that way you don't have to write as many songs for it. Oh, there it is. It's that, we lack material. Oh, well, it's an EP. Oh, so do you actually have a full-length album? We're working on it. Okay, right. So that's all you got.
Yeah,
5 or 6
I know
songs.
I know
And
what you're
that's
saying,
fine,
but I wonder how much that matters, honestly, because I think we've like truly hit a point now where album-driven music is done. Honestly.
Oh, pretty much.
I mean, everything is singles now. You want to get want to get a single that can get a lot of downloads on Spotify,
right?
And that's nobody worries about whether or not they have a full album's worth of material anymore.
The music industry has gone back to what it was before the Beatles.
Yeah.
Before everybody in the 60s started making their own albums. This is how music was released. It was released as singles. They would sell 45s, and they would sell a shit ton of them.
Yep.
And you didn't have to put out a full album, and if you did, most of it was throwaway stuff anyways.
That's true.
And I think the stigma, I mean, Scott, to your point, I think the stigma about that is over at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Everybody knows that that's where the singles are where the money's being made, and so that's where they focus.
Yeah.
True enough.
And if you look at all the writers involved, holy hell.
But if you like live music, do you go to see a band just for one song? I wouldn't, but that's just me.
Not at the prices the concerts are
today.
Right?
Oh, they're fucking
Well, that's
insane.
the other thing is, like, I saw Tom Petty perform on the last tour that he did before he died. When you bought the tickets for the concert, they gave you the album for free. I mean, we've hit such a point where, like, it used to be that the albums were where all the money was. And now we've hit a point where, like, everybody just accepts that you're not making money on the actual album. What you're trying to do is make money on the tours and the merchandise and all of that shit. So it was like, we'll give you the album. We just want you to buy a ticket and sit your butt in a seat and listen to it played live.
Yeah, actually,
Crazy.
I went to see Duran Duran 5-6 years ago, and yeah, they gave me the album with the ticket.
Yep.
Wow.
One. I got 2, one with each ticket.
I think 90% of the money in the industry now is every time you stream something on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever app that you use, the artist gets like 2 cents, basically.
Yeah, it's shit.
The money is not there anymore, and so they basically just acknowledged that and said, "Look, I'm not really trying to make money on the recording. I'm trying to make money on the live tour and on the publication rights for the future, etc."
No, the internet made the music industry happy that they didn't have to worry about albums anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
They could just put out singles, and these little shitty bands, these YouTubers or whomever come out and they get one big hit, and it's like, yeah, we sold 1 billion of their song, and they didn't do shit after that because they got lucky. They really weren't that talented. They figured something out. I mean, whatever. I mean, think about it. We wouldn't have Bieber if it wasn't for the fucking internet.
Or Drake.
Mixtapes, to me, was always an art form. When you put a mixtape together, you were like you were wooing someone. You were like, hey.
Yes, that's that's exactly when I think of the word mixtape. That's what I think about.
I've cultivated this tape of special music for you.
This is what I listen to when I think of you. These songs all make me think of you, and that's how a mixtape.
For example, it opens with Ted Nugent's "Wang Dang Sweet Poontang,"
and Wasp's "Tender Love Ballad." I want to fuck you like an animal.
And ending with the finals, I touch myself.
Right, there you go.
Oh, it always ends with that.
Yes. If you don't reply, this is where this is going.
The song is called "Fuck Like a Beast." Now I remember. Boy, I got the.
Yeah, "Fuck You Like an Animal" is the line from the Nine Inch Nails.
Yes.
I'm thinking it closer. Yeah, no, actually the song is "Fuck Like a Beast." Yes. An animal.
One more week with that explicit warning tag on the podcast.
Well, we passed that early.
You would miss that if it wasn't there. Come on. Come on.
All right.
You gotta clean up your language. Do I?
All right.
Do we have anything else to say about Gang of Four or Drake?
I think that, I think we've beaten this.
I will retire then to my chambers and come back with my verdict. And we'll take a short break.
Now it's time for the Kanye Shoe Report. Yes, that's right. Kanye's got a line of shoes. Whether you knew it or not, we're telling you about it. Because we here at Musical Shenanigans, we pride ourselves on being cutting edge in music, technology, whatever the hell it is Scott subscribes to, and, most importantly, fashion. And because of our close ties to Kanye, well, cease and desist does count. We were able to go down to Tom McKinney and try out some of these new shoes of his. We got the Ritale discount. Oh wait, no, that's retail. God damn it! But while we were down there, we were able to ask other people exactly what they thought of these shoes. So we are today at the Tom McCann shoe store for the big unveiling of the new Yeezy shoe.
Yeah, I'm checking out the Yeezy Boost 380 Blue Oat. More like bloat, am I right?
How about this Yeezy Knit Runner? It now comes in sulfur. You could look like you're wearing bananas on your feet.
I mean, I'm kind of partial to the MX Cream Clay. You know, it brings me back to my jelly shoes days.
Nothing like a shoe that when you wear it says, hey, come kick my ass.
I mean, I'm not so sure. These Yeezy 500 High Frosted Blue, kind of,
Shoes that are so fantastic, they leave you speechless. But hey, we'll be back with more Kanye Shoe Report later. Stick around.
All right, so we are back. I've thought about this. I had never listened to either of these albums, so I really actually came into this without any kind of preconceived notions. Both of these albums had a few references that were frankly a little beyond me. You know, Drake spent a lot of time slamming other rappers with whom I wasn't familiar and didn't really understand what the whole beef was about. Gang of Four spent a lot of time singing about UK politics in the 70s, which of course isn't really on my radar screen either. So I was trying to think of this in terms of like, what does it feel like they were trying to accomplish and how successful were they at pulling it off? Most of the time, Gang of Four is trying to make a political statement, but they were also trying to create a totally new art form with this whole post-punk movement. For me, the deciding factor, I think, was really consistency. The Gang of Four album really kind of maintains that energy and creativeness from start to finish. It felt like the Drake album kind of lagged, and once you got past the first few tunes, it just sort of the energy dropped off, the consistency dropped off. So for that reason alone, I've got to go with Entertainment by Gang of Four.
Woo!
It was my compelling Stevenson.
It was. Hey everybody, this is Dave, and I just want to take a quick minute to thank you all for listening. You know, we have a lot of fun making this show for you, and we hope you're enjoying what you hear. And if you are enjoying the show, why not take a minute to subscribe? All you have to do is just search for Musical Shenanigans on your favorite podcast app. We're on all of them, like iHeartRadio, Amazon, Apple, Spotify. Once you find us, you just tap that little subscribe button. You never ever have to worry about missing an episode again. It'll be right there on your phone when it comes out. Also, we'd love it if you tell your friends about us. In fact, if you're with a friend right now, next time they get up to leave the room, you know what, just grab their phone and subscribe them as well. I'm sure they'll thank you for it. And as always, we always love your feedback. You can always drop us a review on your favorite podcast platform, or you can tweet at us at @m_shenanigan. Please let us know what you think. We'd love to hear it. All right, that's enough shameless plugging. Again, thank you for listening, and now back to the show. Okay, so now I think we are moving on to round two, where I will be talking about Miles Davis Bitches Brew, and Scott will be coming back in to tell us about OK Computer.
All about Radiohead, yeah. Things you never, ever knew.
And Corey will be judging us this round. Corey, are you ready?
Oh, good.
I will be judging.
Yeah, it's sexy judging, too.
That is right. I am too sexy for this judge, Rob.
Let me see your briefs.
in those tiny whities, yeah.
No, those are not tighty whities. I've just not been out in the sun.
Oh, man. That's a lot like me, sir. Right, where were we?
All right, Dave. Bitches Brew.
Yeah,
And you're up.
All right. So Miles Davis was always somebody who had a sense of where music was heading. He wasn't just an expert in what he did. He was an expert in where things were going in the future. And he knew that by the late 60s, after years of the rock industry sort of steadily chipping away at the audience, jazz was pretty much on life support. In his memoir, he actually said in 1969, it was the year that jazz seemed to be withering on the vine. We played to a lot of half-empty clubs, and I started realizing that most rock musicians didn't know anything about music. And I figured if they could sell all those records without knowing what they were doing, I could too, only better. He was particularly interested about psychedelic rock, which was everywhere at the time. He asked John McLaughlin, who was his guitar player, about Jimi Hendrix. McLaughlin took him to a theater to watch footage of Jimmy lighting his guitar on fire, and Miles was just sort of awestruck by the whole thing, and he realized the time had come for jazz to evolve. So he went back in the studio and he recorded In a Silent Way, which was sort of the first attempt to kind of fuse jazz and rock music together. It was Miles' horn backed by electric instruments instead of the traditional acoustic instruments that jazz players had used for years. And it didn't really go down well. Some of the jazz purists had a lot of concern about him sort of abandoning his roots. But Miles wasn't really somebody who cared a hell of a lot about what audience wanted. So rather than backing down, he doubled down, decided he was going to push the technique even further. In a Silent Way had 8 musicians who recorded the whole album in a single session. So for his next album, Miles brought in 13 musicians over 3 full days of recording. And he didn't really give them a lot of direction. He jotted down some simple chord charts, he handed them over and said, play anything that comes to mind as long as it plays off this chord. And as they all started sort of improvising around the chords he wrote, Miles was listening carefully to the resulting cacophony, calling out suggestions in real time, trying to sort of shape an overall moment. As his biographer Quincy Troop put it, the goal was to create a maelstrom of music, everything swirling around him, going in different directions at once, and he was at the center directing everything like a mad scientist. Or as John McLaughlin, his guitarist, put it, it was Miles painting with music, and we were all his brushes. Every take was an experiment. Maybe something good would come out of it, maybe it wouldn't. Or more often, maybe it would be somewhere in the middle, something Miles could work with. A block of misshapen wood that most people would ignore, but seen by a sculptor for its potential that could be cut, planed, and polished into a better version of itself. What was most important was no matter how it sounded, the tape kept running. And after 3 days of recording, all of those unedited tapes were handed over to producer Teo Macero. Teo had carte blanche to edit. He could move anything around, cutting and splicing moments together. For example, he might isolate 2 particular interesting minutes from the first morning, realize they might sound good next to 3 minutes from the second day, and splice them next to each other, creating the illusion of one cohesive song. Teo also added special effects that were largely unheard of in jazz at the time, like echoes and reverb. Once again, the purists thumbed their noses, but younger audiences were really warming up to the idea of blending various genres together. And the album, Bitches Brew, ultimately became Miles Davis's fastest-selling album, moving 500,000 copies in the first year. Even the traditionalists ultimately had to come around and realize it was for the better, because that new audience rejuvenated interest in jazz as a whole. So just as he had done in the past, Davis had once again seen the future and carried the genre along with him, even if it was going to be kicking and screaming the entire way. And I yield.
Yeah, praise Satan.
I'm surprised you didn't mention the part where he played the trumpet like an electric guitar, plugging it in, with electronic effects and pedals. He was really going off the edge with this one.
Even on their live performances by that point, he was using a lot of sort of echo and reverb on stage and experimenting around, but they'd never really done it in the studio. So this was, to your point, Corey, like this was the first time where they said, okay, we're going to take that and build on it.
What I liked he's got 2 bass players. He's got an electric bass. He's got a double bass, stand-up bass. He's got upwards of 3 drummers. And when you look at the listing of the drummers, one's listed as playing in the left channel, one's listed as playing in the right channel, and he's got keyboardists, one of which is Chick Corea, and he has, and one of them's listed as playing left channel, one's listed as playing right channel, one's listed as playing center channel. It's all over the place where he was like just putting the instruments, and so you listen to this on headphones, it it can drive you mad, but it's incredibly well done.
Yeah.
And to think that through and to experiment with that and just say, hey, all right, here's the chord, here's a little bit of the melody, go.
Play whatever you want.
To me, that was like some of the most brilliant madness ever recorded. Just flat out, yes, it's chaos. Yes, it is insane. Yes, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense sometimes, but listen to it and it just, it flows.
It does.
There's beauty. Yeah, I mean.
Without this, I don't think we would have really had what we got from Frank
Oh,
Zappa.
No.
Oh.
No, Zappa had to be influenced by that.
Absolutely.
I mean, Zappa was already, living out past the edge as it was, but this
is true.
This gave him some direction of like, oh, I can do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Miles kind of opened up the floodgates on what was possible in a studio setting. Because, I mean, the Beatles had explored that in an early sense, but even they didn't get to fully explore as far as he did. And Hendrix as well, for that matter. I mean, you mentioned Hendrix.
Yeah, he was inspired by Hendrix, and Hendrix in return was inspired by this.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I mean, just kind of came around circle. I mean, it also included Santana, the Allman Brothers, the Doors, the Dead, and even Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And I can clearly see where this would take us into prog rock, where this gives us like the Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and King Crimson.
Definitely Robert Fripp,
yes.
Yeah, and needed we say more, because Mr. Fripp is just amazing.
Well, there was one artist in particular who claimed this is a big influence on a rather influential album that they released, and that album was OK Computer by Radiohead.
I saw that. Tom, is he York?
Yeah.
Tom York.
It's just York.
It's actually Yorkie.
Yes, it is Tom with an H, and so it's just a little confusing. But
Tom Yorkie.
That's actually correct. It's Tom Yorkie. Yes, I did a lot of research on this album, which I'll tell you about in a moment.
Yeah, I was trying not to actually get to the Radiohead because I was going to wait until you finished talking about Radiohead first. But
well, here we go.
Yeah, I did see that where in the article it said yes, when they were creating OK Computer, they were building it on. One of the influences was Bitches Brew.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's.
I think that's a good segue, actually.
I think it's a perfect segue. Yes.
All right,
Scott.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, it's OK Computer by Radiohead. This album was written by the Brit twat band Radiohead. Okay. What?
No, I'm just.
They're a Brit twat band. They did that song Creep that everyone can't stand, but everyone covers. It's horrible, so really, just don't. Anyway, it should be noted, the original title of this was called, Okay, my computer is about to explode because I've somehow gotten jam in all the buttons and there's a strange orange-flavored smell that's now wafting up from the motherboard and the cables in the back are starting to glow a bright green, but hey, it's fine probably. And now, oh no, my anus is exposed. But it was shortened to OK Computer after some nudging from the record company.
What, they didn't want to compete with Fiona Apple?
They didn't. They felt like it was a little too arty for her, Anyway, so Radiohead was the brainchild of a leftist monarchist sheep herder from Shropshire named Bigelow Telluride. He grew up in an orphanage in India and was learning to play the cello by the age of 8. His parents immigrated to Britain and he switched to guitar and Jew's harp. Bigelow, can you say that? Can you say Jew's harp? Because I mean,
that is an actual.
Yeah, I think the more politically correct word is like mouth harp, but I know what you're talking about.
Well, you know what I mean.
But
okay, all right.
Don't give Scott mouth harp to work with.
Mouth harp, skin flute, whatever. Okay. Anyway, Bigelow later met a dude who called himself Yorkie, and together they formed Radiohead. Bigelow was behind the scenes mastermind who wrote every one of their songs from 1993 to present. His main influences being heroin, Brazilian waxing, and extreme cliff diving. As the band gained popularity, Bigelow wrote this gem: We the dicks of Orient are bearing gifts from the trunks of Alright, take 2. We the dicks of Orient are bearing gifts from the trunk of our car. An air-filled doll, a film, and a dildo, an anal intruder too. Sex toys fill my life with joy. Sex toys take the place of my boys. Stuff me with a foot-long dong. Plastic sex toys are so fun. Although Yorkie claims credit for that, much of Bigelow's work is without a doubt the influence of Kenny Loggins, with whom Bigelow had befriended in Dubai. Well, he befriended him in Dubai sometime sometime in 1990. Kenny and Bigelow used to run around the streets of Dubai dressed as aquatic chihuahuas while chanting this phrase: "My nutsack and my anal glands need expressing. My nutsack and my anal glands need expressing." Dubai police have kept this quiet until now, but most likely due to the fact that Kenny Loggins owns like 90% of that city. Another little known fact. Although we can neither confirm nor deny that Kenny Loggins being a devout Muslim, we are certainly certain that he was a deep influence on his friend Bigelow and therefore upon the band Radiohead. This, of course, explains the fact that every song on the album, which was like listening to a cement block being dragged over my balls by a duck, no one, and I mean absolutely absolutely no one should ever have to listen to this album. It is cruel, it is inhumane, it is ghastly, and it is disturbing. It is for twat monkeys. Bigelow Telluride was found dead in late 2016, and it is suspected that the Yorkie is complicit in his death, although Kenny Loggins remains mum on the whole matter. No one knows what cake mix will be next for the band, but it is certain that no one will ever call Kenny Loggins in to help again, thus ensuring that Bigelow Telluride will be remembered forever. And I'm done.
Yes, you are.
Oh, wait till you hear the edit. I think you finished about 3 minutes ago.
Otherwise, the album had a nice melancholic, atmospheric, alternative feel to it.
Oh, it's so hard to...
Did it now?
It's so hard to come back after one of those.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start here. You mentioned Creep, which I have to agree with you, really overplayed.
God, just stop it, please.
I don't think it's a bad song. In fact, I actually think it's a pretty good song. But yeah, everybody wants to cover it, and I don't need to hear their cover. If I want to hear the song, I'll just sit down and listen to the original.
I'd rather have my balls cut off with a jackhammer than listen to that song again.
That's totally fine. But it was a huge hit, and because it was a huge hit, they actually did something that most bands don't do, and that's the first album under their record contract. They actually broke even. A lot of times you sign a record contract, you put that first album out, and you actually find yourself in debt to the record company, and now you're on the hook for 2 or 3 more albums just to get their money back.
Right.
So they actually broke even, which meant they had more flexibility. They went back in the studio, did a second album called The Bends, which was also super popular, and I think also on the Rolling Stone Top 500. And at the time, both at the time of Creep and at the time of The Bends, they were really a guitar-driven grunge/alternative explosion in the early 90s, right? That everybody had a guitar in a band. And then this album came out, and it wasn't that. Kind of like the Miles Davis, frankly. It did not go down well with some of their fans. You had people that really liked those first 2 albums and really pushed back on this because now all of a sudden the guitars are still there, but there's all this sort of electronica added, and you've got Tom York sort of doing his melancholy wailing kind of thing. And
well, that was Kenny Loggins' influence.
Yeah, it's true.
This album was their Tusk.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It was their Tusk. They said they weren't going to do anything. They said they were not going to make the Bends 2, even though they were told, well, if you make another album like the Bends, it'll go multi-million platinum overnight. And they were not going to do that.
So I got a lot of bluegrass feeling out of that.
Tusk or this?
This. Oh, we're not talking about... I won't bag on Tusk.
I'm not bagging on Tusk.
So actually, I have a little game we can play here.
Lindsey Buckingham might come and beat me up.
I have a little game we can play here. I collected 4 or 5 quotes of people reacting to one of these 2 albums.
Oh,
and
all right.
I'm curious how good you guys are at spotting like which album is the person in question talking about. So these are critics, fans, whatever. And obviously I've edited these to cut the actual references to the artists and the albums themselves. But other than that, these are verbatim.
Fun.
Okay.
Here's your first one.
Wait, what are we guessing?
Whether or not this is a person complaining about Bitches Brew or complaining about OK Computer. Because in both cases, they had a fan base who were pissed off because they felt like the band was leaving them behind.
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't preface that.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know what we were going to be guessing. But I like this game.
Yeah. So here's your first quote. I bought this album when it was originally released on the basis of critics' raves. At the time, I listened to it several times and kept thinking, what the fuck?
That's OK Computer.
That is someone talking about Bitches Brew.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
I still vividly recall the crushing disappointment of that first listen. It's fair to say that listening to the album ruined all the excitement I felt rushing home and listening to it. I listened to it again. It did not grow on me. If anything, it got worse.
Oh, that was my mom. That was OK Computer.
That was OK Computer.
That sounds like OK Computer. Yeah, that was me, like a cement block being dragged over my balls by a duck. Yeah.
It may have sounded like the future, but it was possibly not the kind of future we were all looking forward to.
Bitches Brew.
It is Bitches Brew. It is Bitches Brew. All right, one more. There are countless albums of self-indulgent experimental doodling that are passed off as brilliant masterpieces or works of genius. If there's enough hyper-attention focused on something, people will begin to believe in something that really does not exist. Boring wankfest is a good description of these types of things.
Bitches Brew.
No, that's if you're reading this, it's too late. It's the Drake album. You threw a curveball at us.
Oh.
Actually, Scott is correct. That was a review of Bitches Brew.
Yeah. What you say wank fest, and it's like, yeah, okay. I admit Bitches Brew is a serious wank fest, but I enjoyed it a whole fucking lot more than that. Okay, whatever the fuck, that long ass title that they had for it. It was a ridiculously long title. I'm glad they cut it down to OK Computer. It's like the record company was just like, what the fuck are they on about? I don't know. Fucking drugs. Okay.
The other interesting thing I noticed as I was looking at these was where people stood on these albums often had a lot to do with what generation they were. So, like, you had Miles' traditional fan base of purist jazz that were really not happy with this whole experimental direction he was going into. But then you had younger kids who were thinking, this is the coolest shit in the world. I like Hendrix, and now we're adding jazz to Hendrix, basically.
There you go, yeah.
And this and
Miles went really well with shrooms.
Yep. And you can find the same thing about Radiohead. There's like people on message boards out there, people my age, you know, their late 40s, who think, yeah, I really like the first couple albums better because it was more guitar driven. I'm not too sure about all this electronic bullshit. And then you have people who were born 10 years later who was like, I don't see how anybody listens to the Bends because, you know, Radiohead sucked before OK Computer came out.
Wow. Well, that's all a matter of opinion and conjecture, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, it was what was interesting to me was the generational aspect of it, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. But I think you find that with just about any music.
Yep.
And this producer co-produced it with him because this album, they wanted to do it themselves, but they brought in this Nigel Godrich, I think is how it's pronounced. He was someone that, you know, gave him the levity of, okay, you can do this, you can do that, but at the end of the day, he goes, that sucks, that doesn't work, do this. And he really gave him a sense of direction. A good producer is someone that will hammer you down and make you work. And they've been using him for every album since then.
Well, he pushed Bigelow a lot further, and Thaam as well. Thaam was like, you know, trying to detune his guitars during that album. They were like, no, don't, no. So, and Kenny Loggins was like, no, we're going to do it more like Danger Zone. They went, okay. So, yeah.
But anyhow, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation described Godrich's collaboration with Radiohead as the most adventurous band-producer partnership in modern rock, because he did help redefine their sound and move them forward. I mean, this guy's worked with Beck. He's worked with McCartney. He did Thom Yorke's solo works, and he did Roger Waters' last album. Is this life?
Fuck's sake.
Yeah. Is this the life we really want? I mean, and when I listen to this album, I can see where someone like Waters would pick him up and go, yeah, that's the kind of stuff I used to do. I mean, you could have told me that this guy also produced Radio Chaos, and I've been like, okay, yeah. I mean, he didn't, but I could definitely see that he could have.
Yeah. You know, all those bands you named, I pretty much can't stand, but that's cool.
You got shit with Beck?
Fuck Beck.
I guess there's your answer.
Have you been tested for Tourette's lately?
Not since last week, no. But fuck Beck, seriously, he's a twat.
Okay. All
right. Fair enough. I've said it before. Art is subjective.
Yep.
It sure as hell is.
All right. Anything else we want to add about Radiohead or Miles Davis before Corey adjourns here?
There was not enough screaming on either album.
I don't know. That trumpet sound certainly sounded like screaming to me.
And there certainly was no Cookie Monster vocals, which I think would have gone a whole lot better on either of them. Fuck! Satan! You know, I mean, just any of that would have gone great on either album.
You know what's the most
least popular Sesame Street episode ever.
Yes. You know, the Cookie Monster vocals, I always find it impressive when they can do it in key. That's just and without auto-tune.
Oh, well, that's the thing is most of the Cookie Monster vocals, at least the good vocalists who are there, I mean, there's a technique to singing that way. So it's not easy.
I mean, they've spent time over in Eastern Asia learning Tuvan throat singing.
Right. That's the thing is they learn how to sing like 4 octaves down. I sing it from my anus, yeah. It's my anus contracting and you're actually hearing the little belches that come up through my colon. roll, and it is sexy, but it's loud and just roll. My asshole is singing to you.
This is a guy that does not share his microphone, or no one shares a microphone with him.
Probably not.
Okay, I think I have enough.
All right.
I'm going to deliberate now.
All right, we'll be right back.
Talk amongst yourselves.
We'll be ready for you when you get back, sir.
And now it's time for the Kanye Shoe Report. I don't know, the Yeezy 500 in flame. When I wear it, I just feel the power of infidelity.
Also tried out the, Yeezy Boost 350 Pirate Black 2016 release, clocking in at $1,770. Seems reasonable. Sure. I did not feel like a pirate upon putting these on, nor did I feel like plundering anything because my ass had already been plundered by the cost of these fucking shoes.
So I tried out the Yeezy Boost 350 Reflectives in the Beluga 2.0 color. And I gotta tell you, look, I was skeptical, but I kind of liked them. I mean, they were comfortable, they went with what I was wearing, and I felt confident in them. I felt like really confident, like super confident, like this sort of inexplicable, unjustified level of confidence. I mean, I left the store and I was walking around the mall knowing, not feeling, knowing that I was on the verge of greatness. And I was just walking around saying to myself, I'm soaking in these last moments of anonymity. I'm going down as a legend, whether you like me or not. I'm Jim Morrison. I'm the new Kurt Cobain. I am Warhol. I am the #1 most impactful artist of our generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh. I am the #1 human being in music. That means any person living or breathing is #2. Suddenly I felt the greatest pain in my life, realizing I was never going to be able to see myself performing live, and I couldn't bear to think of others suffering that fate, so I left the mall. I went to the airport, I got on a flight, and as soon as the plane was in the air, I jumped up and I launched into an a cappella rendition of Gold Digger. Nobody asked me to do that shit. I was just giving my fellow passengers a taste of perfection, and by the time we landed, they were better off for it, because my music is going to be too big for a studio. I need to record in stadiums in front of a replica of my childhood home, so people could see my humble beginnings and say, my God, how did he get from there to here? And while they were pondering that question, I would set myself on fire just like the burning bush, and that would be when people would see that I'm not just a musician. I'm more of a messenger. I'm like a vessel. God has chosen me to be the voice and the connector. I mean, look, the Bible had 20, 30, 40, 50 characters in it. You don't think I'd be one of the characters in today's modern Bible? I should be on the cover of Rolling Stone wearing a crown of thorns because I'm spreading the gospel. Fuck critics. Fuck awards. They can't even wrap their heads around what I'm doing. I'm too far ahead. I need to win a Grammy just so I can tweet a video of myself throwing it in a toilet and pissing all over it. I won't be silenced. I run up on stage right in the middle of somebody else's acceptance speech, and I will explain why a different person should have won that award just to seize the moment and enlighten the world. And if they ask me why I did it, I'll say, you know what? If God didn't want me to run up on stage and say Beyonce had the best video, he shouldn't have sat me in the front row. And once I get too big for music, I'm going to branch out and start a fashion line. And once I get too big for fashion, I'm going to take my rightful place as leader of the free world. I will hire a couple of political consultants and run for goddamn president. And with these shoes on my feet, nothing is going to keep my ass out of the Oval Office. And then I got home and I took off the shoes and I suddenly realized that everything I just told you were all actual real things that Kanye has actually said or done in real life. And that's when I realized I wasn't actually ready for that level of douchebaggery, and so thankfully I had kept the receipt.
End of review. Fuck you, Yeezy. These are... Jesus, just get out of the fucking shoe market. What the fuck is wrong with you anyway, making fucking shoes like this? What kind of fucking twat does this? Jesus Christ.
So here we have it. We've got Radiohead and Miles Davis. Now, the Miles Davis album is groundbreaking. It is the huge impact on many, many artists down the road after this. Prog rock, jazz fusion, Frank Sinatra, fuck. Frank Zappa. Dude, Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
You know what?
I did not
This is the album that inspired the Oboists.
If there was going to be a callback to that moment, I wasn't expecting Corey to do it.
No, me either.
I fucked up.
Ha! See, I knew somebody else had heard this album.
Yeah, so Frank Sinatra and the 12 psychic oboists. You could actually, this album was inspired by them.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And Radiohead. that I'm not very familiar with. I did think it was a very good album. I came in already with some negativity because of, yes, Creep being overplayed, and some people that would just fangirl over them. You're like, shut up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know I do that about, other drummers and such. But at the end of the day, I mean, this was a tough call. I think if OK Computer was going up against anybody else, I think they could easily take them, but Bitches Brew wins this round.
Ooh.
Well, there you go.
Oh, do we have any upsets?
Well, we actually just had one. Gang of Four did in fact outrank Drake on the Rolling Stone Top 500. However, Bitches Brew and OK Computer both in the top 100. Bitches Brew came in at 87. Radiohead came in at 42.
Ooh!
Now,
holy crap!
That's actually interesting that Radiohead's at number 42. Because OK Computer
right, I guess it is
a quote from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Right.
Yeah,
taken from Sapphire People.
You just keep saying that, but you're wrong. I told you what the title is.
Scott, I could agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong. So
no, it's clear to everyone that you're wrong.
I can be wrong.
It's all right.
It's all right.
It's all right. All right.
It's all
if
right.
You like being wrong.
Hey,
you like being
I'm
wrong.
all right.
I'm all right.
Don't nobody worry about me.
Don't worry about me.
That's right. Doing what I think is right. Why don't you just let me be, Corey?
I see where this is going.
Steven Seagal movies and Kenny Loggins with Donald Trump somewhere in there too.
It really changes the whole dynamic of when he sings about Pooh's Corner.
Boy, does it ever.
Oh, well played.
Okay, so the next albums.
Oh, yes, the next ones.
In the first round is going to be REM, Automatic for the People.
Oh, all right, that's fun.
Against the Kinks. The Kinks are the Village Green Preservation Society.
What?
That's the name. The name of the album is "The Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation
Society."
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, it's a strange name.
And in round 2, Bob Marley and the Wailers with Exodus.
Okay, cool.
Competing with Big Brother and the Holding Company, Cheap Thrills.
Oh my God, what a I'll just save it. I think Kenny Loggins probably had something to do with that one too. People are gonna hate me for that. You're bigger than Janis Joplin.
You know what?
Oh, we're just gonna fuck Janis Joplin too, because yeah.
Okay. I think this is a good place to stop.
Yeah, I think we've covered it.
All right. Well.
All right. Thank you all again, and we will catch you next time.
Praise Satan.
Bye bye.
Praise Satan.
Whee!